And here we have the Daily Bugle in all its glory. And what's that? Doesn't look like too much. Let me just pan up here. There's a little bit more of it up top. So this is a pretty tall build. It is the tallest modular up until maybe the Avengers Tower. I don't have that one yet. I still plan to get it, but it is definitely very tall. And it is a modular, as we'll see in a minute as we look at the sides and on the inside. Although it may be more accurate to call it a pseudo-modular because the inside of each level doesn't connect to the next the same way a normal modular would with a staircase or even an elevator. But it's still, it's still an impressive build. And while there's some things I'm going to talk about as a negative, let's take a look at the side builds and minifigures first. Then we'll go floor by floor and take a closer look at some of the details. So starting over here, we have our impressive collection of minifigures. Of course, we've got mainstays like Spider-Man and Venom. And while some of these minifigs are unique, it's mostly the characters that we don't get very often. So a lot of the others, if they're unique, it's some small little detail. So Spider-Man, Venom, Peter Parker, Spider-Gwen, Gwen Stacy, Mysterio, Spider-Ham, Robbie Robertson, who's a Bugle editor, Miles as his Spider-Man, Aunt May, Black Cat, Ben Ulrich, who, if you're not familiar with him with the comics, he's been in the Netflix Daredevil show and a version of him was in the Ben Affleck movie. Then we've got Carnage, Punisher, Comic Daredevil, Comic Blade, Green Goblin, Doc Ock. This is probably some deep cut that I'm just not familiar with, but this is Bernie the cab driver. You've got Betty Brant, who is a receptionist in most versions I've seen of her. Amber Grant, who I'm sure is somebody, I don't know who, but she's the named character in this. You've got J. Jonah Jameson himself. You've got Ron Barney, who again is probably some deep cut. I'm sorry if you know who he is and I don't, let me know down below. Sandman, Firestar, and like I said, there's Doc Ock over there. All of them are pretty good. I do wish more of them had leg details. Only a couple do, and by a couple I mostly mean Spider-Man, Peter Spider-Man, Miles Spider-Man, Black Cat, Carnage, and the Punisher. I think, yeah. I mean, if you count Sandman's sand legs, or whatever you want to call that, then I guess he's got good legs too. But only a couple have leg printing, and I like that. Oh, Green Goblin has that too. But again, I don't think he's unique, so whatever. So it would be nice, again, if they just went a little farther. I've heard this is a complaint with a lot of modern Marvel Lego, that they're just not putting as much detail on some of the figs as they should, which is a shame. But aside from the three civilians, Bernie, Amber, and Ron, who again, maybe they've been in important characters at one point or another, but I don't know who they are. I'm sorry, I'm not a good enough nerd, but that'd be my only complaint about the minifigs. I also don't know if you really needed both regular Peter and regular Gwen. If you're going to do that, why doesn't Miles get a regular fig too? I'd rather have a version of Miles in his street clothes than any of the other three civilians. The only one who kind of makes sense is because they put this newsstand on the base, and so you gotta have someone manning that, and in the instructions they have Amber doing that, so I don't know if that's her role in the comics, but whatever. Anyway, so that's the minifigs. I don't really have a problem with any of them. I probably wouldn't have put all 3 civilians in if I was going to do that. Otherwise, they're good, especially if you don't have some of them. Like, I don't think I had any version of Aunt May, so that's great. And then Punisher and Daredevil aren't characters we're going to get very often because at least in the current iterations, they're much more adult than LEGO usually does stuff for, unless it's an 18+ set. So while we have gotten Carnage, who is a serial killer, or comes from a serial killer in the comics and shows and whatnot, they've toned him down, at least in the cartoons in recent years. So a kid could get him and not think, oh, this is my favorite character, Cletus the homicidal maniac. I'll also say that the Doc Ock figure, while not my favorite look as far as his main body goes, I do think this method of using the posing pieces in gray along with a 1x1 round stud looks really good for his arms, his octopus arms, although it was kind of annoying to put together. Not hard, just it's repetitive, and I don't know, it kind of hurt my fingers after a little bit. So those are the minifigs, like I said. Pretty good overall. Small changes here and there would have made some of it better, but no problems otherwise. There's also 2 side builds, 3, I guess, technically. One being this cab. I could have done without this. I mean, it doesn't look bad, but like I've said with modulars before, most of our stuff we get for them is 6 wide at best, which means you can't put figs side by side. And I know with a taxi, someone's usually in the back, and you can do that with this taxi. You can have Bernie in the front and then literally right behind him. Like, no space between them. Like, they'd be 4 stud, 4 stud. You need that for a sitting minifig. But I just, I'd rather have them drop this and put more detail into something else. Or just give me a Speed Champions taxi. Like, that's the ticket. All right? So, whatever. It's not bad looking. It's just unnecessary. Our other vehicle build is the Spider Buggy. And again, I kind of wish it was bigger. It's just kind of supposed to go on the side of the building. There's a specific spot for it. And while it looks fine in general, I mean, you can tell what it is. It's the Spider Buggy. A joke vehicle from a while back that just sort of pops up now and again. I think it's not most recent, but most recent thing I see a lot of, reposts of on well, I mean, not Instagram, but like Twitter and whatnot, it was an Old Man Logan and some of the other Old Man stuff where he and Hawkeye did a road trip in it for whatever reason. But while it looks fine, again, I wish it was bigger if they're going to include it. I know it's kind of a joke vehicle in general, but I don't know. I have a weird thing about vehicles. If they're not going to be a certain size and they're not like a go-kart or whatever, or a bumper car that should be one person, then why bother? Like this, like the Spider Buggy is, I think it can fit like 4 people, at least 2, but I think like 4 in the comics. So to have this where it's got 1 seat and then I guess you could have someone sit on the back, that just doesn't do it for me. So whatever. The third and final side build is this sandy road section being broken apart, and that's specifically for Sandman, if he wants to get on there, yeah. And so it's supposed to be him erupting from the ground, as far I believe. It looks fine. It gets that broken aesthetic, and you can technically pose it a little bit, although that piece keeps wanting to come off, even though I put it on the way they said to in the instructions. So, whatever. So, it's fine. I actually prefer this more than the vehicles, because at least it kind of serves a battle purpose. It makes it look like something's going on. There's a really lame... I'm not going to try posing Spider-Man right now, but there we go. So those are the 3 builds and the minifigs. Let's take a look around the whole building, floor by floor, and then we'll go inside. So here's the first floor, first level on the outside. So you've got a newsstand over here, and as you'll see, these newspapers are throughout. There's actually several different ones. It says "No crime, no thanks to Spider-Man." And then there's actually a magazine with Kingpin in there and some like car tags, or not car tags, but bumper stickers. So that's a neat little detail. If we go around this side, you know, we've got this alleyway. This is another play feature, or I guess our first play feature, where this part of the wall breaks out. You know, cool, I guess. For this size set, I really don't think we need play features, because this isn't the kind of set you're gonna, the average like kid who really plays with their Lego sets is gonna get or actually play with, if they do get it. At least I don't think so, but that's just me. Anyway, like with the Sanctum Sanctorum we looked at before, it uses boxes and other stuff around the edge to still get that modular effect where you can connect this to the buildings around it. I don't do that. I leave the stuff in case I ever decide to, but I don't generally do it. But this does get us a look that, or might be our first sign, that because we've got so much empty space on this side and enough space for a newsstand on the other, that it's obviously not taking up the whole plate. And that goes double for the back, where we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 studs of free space. And again, I don't have a problem with alleyways being around the buildings. I actually like them, but they don't need to be 8 studs wide, especially if you're putting buildings back to back. If they're like 4 studs wide, then good. And that's probably more than enough. Anyway, so you've got some webbing, which actually covers where Peter hides his bag up here. You've got a door here that's both got some, it's an exit sign, but it's got a Goblin tag and Eddie Brock tag. These 2 dumpsters, which have some food and junk in them, and then there's an air conditioning with a bird in there, and then another little alleyway behind the newsstand. Again, boxes, and then the newsstand act as your modular connection. So I really feel like you could have done more, made this building just a little bit bigger and taken up some of those stud spaces, especially in the back. And there's a major reason for that when we get inside that I'll go over. But let's jump to the second floor and go from there. So here's the exterior of the front. We've got this wraparound TV monitor setup, or display, whatever you want to call it. So we've got a current newscast with Jay Jonason talking to Kurt Connors, Miles Warren, and the Scarlet Spider about cloning, which, if you don't know, there was a whole clone saga in the late 90s, I believe, that is kind of infamous. They've recreated it in several of the cartoons in one way or another, but in the comics, it was a big old thing. There's also a previous story about 4 of the 6 Sinister Six members going good, maybe, except we know they never go good. And then there's a sign for Osborn running for mayor, which is a plot point in several different things. I know it was in the, he was mayor in the Spider-Man PS5 games recently, but I don't know if that storyline went anywhere in the second game. I haven't gotten that yet. It has the same windows around the 3 of the sides, same as the front on the bottom. And, you know, they're fine. They let in a lot of light. I guess I say 4 sides, but this is technically an elevator shaft, but we'll talk about that in a minute. So otherwise, there's not much on the second level except for part of the fire escape, which goes up the whole thing, except, again, because it's such a small footprint, there's actually no space to put minifigs. Yeah, I could attach them to the ladders, and I can make the ladder go down, whatever, but I can't have minifigs on the fire escape. So, unless they're holding the ladder. And that's kind of lame to me. So anyway, moving on. Third floor is another play feature with this exploding goblin glider coming out. Well, the goblin glider is exploding out of J. Jonason's old office, and that office, as we'll see, is a meme reference to the old 60s cartoon. Now, it's not a bad effect, but I am gonna attempt to rebuild it before we look at the inside, because they actually include a couple extra pieces that I believe were there just so you could rebuild it as an actual front. So we'll look at that when I'm done going over the front, or yeah, the outside. Side, same as the second floor, except that there's this extra balcony space that has a doorway to it, so you can put minifigs out there, but again, it's just, was that necessary? Especially because it does mess up something about the elevator that's not really there. But we'll get to that when we get inside. Again, more fire escape that you can't really do much with if you want them to be on the fire escape. There is a hose attachment there, so that's cool, I guess, but it's not great IMO. Last floor is the actual J. Jonah office floor. Front, basically the same build. It's got these flagpole kind of things, and I think the only reason they're there is so you can have some of your guys pose on them. Like they actually have Spider-Man posing on them in one of the pictures for this set. Side, again, basically the same. The only addition is this, so you can put the spider buggy here, so whatever. Back, we've got another bird on another air conditioner, and then a billboard for Jameson's podcast, releases a podcast in the PS5 game. And then one more level of the fire escape. Still, it looks fine, I guess, if you're not looking close at it, but it's still not great. I do like the way the sign on the roof was built, getting that, the lettering, and then the little Daily Bugle in the middle there. There's also a water tower that's been tagged by the Green Goblin and Miles, plus this satellite tower thing for sending out messages. I didn't disattach it, but for Firestar, they've got this little build that you sit her on top of. And, that's fine. If you're going to have... there's no reason not to. Like, if you're going to have it, unless you've got a very specific place for Firestar, you might as well have her there. Otherwise, you can, if you've got a Johnny Storm or somebody else who uses fire to fly. Heck, you can even put Iron Man there if you wanted. But, there's no reason not to have it there, really. So, that's the outside. It is impressive to look at. I am not complaining about the looks. Similar to the Sanctum Sanctorum, there's things about the inside I don't love, and the fact that there's so much of the base plate footprint not used, that bugs me. But let me take a look at this front, and then we'll go inside. All right? So here is the inside of the first floor. It's the only one where the front of the building doesn't come off to allow ease of access. If you wanted, you can consider this wall coming out to be your ease of access, but honestly, I don't count that. The door does open, and it has a second sticker on the inside as well. But, it's a door. It should open. You've got this big monitor here for the waiting room with a Morbius reference, which, that's cute, I guess. He's morbing out. Some more newspapers of various types. One about J. Jonah's son, who the astronaut, and then one about the Daily Bugle itself, and of course about Spider-Man being a menace. There's a neat little vending machine build that's been tagged by Spider-Man there on the side. More of those newspapers from the outside, and again, like I said, there's a seating area, plus the desk that serves as like a security station. Even though there's nobody given to man that, So I would have, instead of a civilian, one of the other civilians, I would have done somebody for that. I guess it could be Betty Brant, but she's got a desk on the top level, so whatever. Anyway, my big complaint, and this goes for every level of this building, is that this is the elevator, or the door to it, but if you look, there's one stud of an elevator. It's not real. The Friends Heart Lake Hotel, years before this, managed to do an elevator. A manual elevator. I'm not asking for an electric one or whatever. So if they can do that for a Friends set, they can do it for this giant DTC set. And that's what makes the fact that there's so much space behind this extra infuriating, because it means the building doesn't actually work as a building. That might not matter to you, but every other modular, with the exception of this one and the third floor of the Sanctum Sanctorum, at least of the ones that I have, there is some access, realistic access for the minifig to get from one level to a next that doesn't require flight or, in this case, web slinging. I know it really doesn't matter, but it annoys me. I don't like it. It looks fine if you're not thinking about it, but if I was gonna change anything more about this set, it would be to add that elevator, which would take at least 4 studs probably. But again, there's enough room for that. So why didn't they do that? It's laziness, as far as I'm concerned. It's form over function, but I want my function, especially if they're going to go out of their way to give us junk like this wall or that comes out, or the window exploding, or any of that other stuff, then they should have given us that there. It's an elevator. Just give it to us. Anyway, again, it looks fine. It could be better, but it's a waiting room, so all right. Let's take a look at the second floor now and hear me complain about more elevators on the other floors. So here is the second floor. It's kind of a bullpen area with, I think there's 4 desks, because on the far side, there's 2 seats. So there's 4 desks, several more monitors with various news reports going on. So just stuff going on. Other newspapers. The desks are pretty neat for the small little builds they are. Definitely looks like they've got a lot of stuff going on. Like, there could be drawers and stuff. Obviously there aren't, but it looks good. That water fountain or water cooler is pretty good. There's a snack bar or coffee station. Some more newspaper clippings. Spider-Man No More reference. Doc Ock still at large, and Times Scare with Green Goblin on there. So that's all well and good. Same problem with the elevator, though. It's just a panel. So whatever. There's also a bucket over here for some reason. So maybe the floor, it leaks. I don't know. But it also has a different contrast of floor color. Each floor is a different color on the floor. First floor is green. This one's yellow. So cool. Something to break it apart. So the inside looks fine. Again, it's not practical. You can't use that elevator, and you can't get to the fire escape. So, it's fine. Again, looks fine. If you're just doing a display and you're not OCD about it like me, great. But anyway, this is the first level where the front just sort of clips on. Well, usually it does. Decided it didn't want to work quite right there. So just stick this back on and try again. I guess that's the fun of it sometimes, is that you can just fix whatever breaks, even though sometimes, there we go, it shouldn't break. So yeah, so there we go. So it's not the most stable connection as far as stuff, but because each level's, I don't know if it's the shape or whatever, but I've actually found that it's hard to get each level off. I think it might be the cumulative effect of each level being taller than normal and there being an extra one than most modulars deal with. But when I was taking this apart to look at each level individually, it did not want to come apart, even though, as you know, with most modulars, there's less studs between each level. Also, if you're wondering about this little lip here, that's the, I don't know what you want to call it, the balcony for the next floor. So let's look at that floor. So here is the third floor, which I consider the meme floor. Now, on this side, we've got a copy machine, and it's, it actually opens up, and I guess you could put something there, although it won't close if you do, if it's a brick. And then there's the exit to the balcony. There's a spider and a web. There's even a pizza for pizza time. So yay. And then you can tell this is not meant to be in use because there's stuff in front of the door, but that leads to J. Jonah Jameson's office from the 60s cartoon. It's even got the picture there, which is neat, I guess, but it's kind of a waste of a level otherwise. That's why they've got the quote-unquote play feature of the Goblin glider popping out. And that's all well and good, I suppose, but they give you the pieces to change that back into a regular front, as I did here. See if this level wants to clip in better. Yeah, there we go. So I changed that back. It's not in such a way that you can just instantly swap out the two versions. It's one or the other without rebuilding. But it wasn't hard to do. All the pieces were there. It just took a minute to swap them out. However, again, with the form over function is two things here. A, the green wall for the meme office. Somebody didn't think that through. Like, they should have made this gray here. There's no reason to be able to see through that if there's just going to be a wall. The other thing is, because of this balcony here, it means even if there was an elevator, it doesn't connect. So it's just, I know no one cares. I do. And I'm sorry that you have to listen to this, the 5 of you who watch these videos, but I really, if I'm going to spend several $100s, or in this case, somebody I know is going to spend several $100s to give me this as a Christmas gift, and then I'm going to put it together several years later, I want them to get their money's worth, or me to get my money's worth when I do buy them. And, well, I'm not saying this isn't worth it. Like, this isn't a bad set. I don't want that to come across. It's just, maybe doing this so close to the Sanctum Sanctorum messed with me, but I just really wish they'd made some better choices. Or more realistic choices. I know it's a comic book set for a children's toy, but this is a D2C set, I believe it would be considered, and those they usually put more detail into. So great, they put a reference to a meme. They could have done that on the next floor that we're about to look at and still been good, and then maybe spent some more time to get that elevator. If you can put an elevator in a Friends set that came out years before this one, you can put it in this one. But anyway, one more floor and its roof, and then we'll be done with the look. We're going to do a little comparison after that, and then we'll slide into the city. So let's go to the 4th floor. And here is the 4th and final floor. Again, non-working elevator. Here's Betty Brant's desk. I think it's actually a pretty neat little build. You've got that same display from outside, except smaller. So that's a neat detail. And then here's J. Jonah's new office. I feel like you could have done this wall with one less window and done it in that green color, and then put the Spider-Man poster there or picture there, and then you could still have your meme. That's my problem with that. Otherwise, you've got some of those of his awards. You've got another newspaper with a unique print. He's even got a unique print on his computer screen about firing Peter Parker, which, it happens. And then Brock is trying to talk to Betty. So, maybe that works out. I don't know. I'm not a big... I wish I was more knowledgeable about some of these references other than just who some characters are. But alas, I spread myself too thin, I guess. So that's a fine level. I like it better than the previous one. I do wish both of them... Yep. Do wish both of them came out all the way over here instead of using that balcony, or if they really wanted that balcony, that they just used all this space. But whatever. Again, I know I shouldn't get caught up on it, but if I'm not going to tell you what I think, what's the point of going over all this? Oh, no, this part doesn't want to... There. It's got this clip-in effect that, I mean, I already kind of showed it, but it works fine when it's in, but getting it in isn't always that great. So final front like that, sticks in, great, gives that skyscraper effect. And then we already looked at it, but there is the top, the roof, and it just, well, if it wants to behave. Nothing wants to behave today. There we go. So, again, I'm leaving the Firestar thing attached for now. I mean, it's just attached there with a 2x1 clip, but there's no reason not to. Like, unless you really don't want something flying around your Daily Bugle, there's just no reason not to force yourself to take it off. But I won't blame you if you do. So there is the whole building inside and out. Now let's take a comparison size-wise. Yes, we'll be able to see that when I go in the city, but I just want to do something a little more detailed before then. So here's a size comparison between the official Daily Bugle and my Daily Bugle I built years ago. Now the front is from an official set from when Ultimate Spider-Man was going on. So I didn't design that, but I did design the rest of it, and I made it the same general size as other modulars. I'm not going to go through it all right now. I do kind of want to, but I don't want to make this video any longer. So maybe we'll do a thing on my mocks, because I've got a couple of them eventually. But you can see there's a big difference in height, and that's great. I love it. I wish more of the modulars did have a little more height disparity. They are usually not too different, just to give it more of a skyline effect. But you know, if even I am going to make mine the same general size, then I guess that tells you that's a pretty good size. Well, whatever. Anyway, let's go and put these back in the city, which has changed a little bit since the last time I put something in, and then we'll be done. So let's do it to it. And here's a look at the new city layout with the Daily Bugle off on the left there. I've tried to reset it up to be a little more visually pleasing than it was before. I didn't think that the quarter width plates between sections was really doing it. So I've reset it up. It's still in a grid pattern because I'm still using the base plates, but I think this is more visually appealing, and I'm going to try and get the really tall stuff in the back, or at least what tall stuff there is. So Daily Bugle, the Ghostbusters Firehouse, and then again, as I've stated before, I'm aiming to get the Avengers Tower at some point, and that's likely going to go right there, which should keep the eye from resting on the back of that Ghostbusters house. But we've got the Assembly Square, and then there's the bookstore, Parisian restaurant. Here is my original Daily Bugle, the one like we talked about a minute ago. So there's the comparison between the two. And if you're wondering why I'm keeping both those in the same city, well, even though there is a TV broadcast going on the new set, on the real one, I guess, this is from a time in the cartoon, my original one, where it was the Daily Bugle had become a full channel, and I'm still going to pretend that it's more of a newspaper over on the skyscraper build. So that's my justification. They've just got 2 office spaces. Here's the Quickie Mart, which I modified slightly to be modular. It really just meant sticking a layer of tiles on there. You might have noticed it in some of the previous videos where it had a parking lot. That's over there now. And just because I'm not doing as much roadway, there is going to be a road. That's what these half plates are for down the 2/3 back section. And it's going to go through the middle of the city and then go around here to where the neighborhood's going to be. So this is my rework for the moment. I like it a little more because it feels more natural, and now I've got some usable back alleys on both front sections. So it's I don't know. I just like it more for now. It's still gonna get finagled a bit. Like there's a half plate section there that just needs to be filled in. It'll probably actually be put between these two buildings, but whatever. So anyway, that's where the Daily Bugle's going, and the other Daily Bugle. And this is the new look at the city. I'm liking it a lot more. Like I said, it feels more natural, and it's got the beginning of that skyline that I think is going to look really good once I've got some more tall stuff. So let me know down below if you like the way the city's coming together. If you have the Daily Bugle official modular set and what you think of it, or if you wish you had gotten it or are happy you didn't based on this review. But otherwise, thanks for spending time in my basement. I hope you have a good one, and I'll see you next time.